¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday. Dr. Dragon Rider Cosmic Seeking, welcome. I actually made it in probably first comment. True, I did take election day off, to vote, of course. Welcome, everybody. Your notification has arrived. Well, that's good. At least it's not like 30 minutes. 30 minutes into the stream. Dr. Dragon Rider kicking things off with a tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, yesterday were the midterms. Good news is that Republicans woefully underperformed. So that's the good news. I wish I had said some that this summer, but not yesterday. I wish I had deployed that tactic, but I don't hang out with chuds. Yeah, yesterday's not yesterday. I think it was last week. Somebody came in saying that the election was November 6th. So let's talk about it. As it stands right now, it does seem to be the case that the Democratic Party will hang on to the Senate. The House is still very much in the air, and it looks like it is going to come down to a couple of it's going to come down to a couple of races. So, like I said, probably throughout these weeks, the Senate will most likely go to the Democrats. The House is going to be a coin flip to favor Republicans. Better news is Trump looked real stupid. Yeah, a lot of like the Trump endorsed candidates just got floored. So that's good. I know Oz told his victory party guests to leave, but did he actually concede? I'm not sure. Nor does it matter because Fetterman won. So that's good. That's all that matters. Also to be noted, a lot of like progressive races also did very well. So that's good news too. So I guess we should start with some copium, right? Yesterday and today, I guess. Oh, another actual notable moment is Lauren Boebert seems to have lost her race as well. Lauren Boebert seems to have lost her race, so that's good. Thank God, Drew. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some right-wing copium, I guess. So let me go over some From Red Wave to Red Wedding. This was just absolute gold. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben, for this piece of content. For this tweet right here. Carrie Lake lost? I think she did. I think she did. No, it's still too early to call. But it looks like the Democrat is ahead by 5,000 votes. I wish I could say Boebert's losing would raise the IQ of the GOP, but it's probably insignificant. No, it's not going to change a thing. It is too early to call. Currently, the Democratic candidate is leading, so yeah. That's good news. Sadly, Marjorie Taylor Greene won. Yeah, that's true. Ben Shapiro confirmed Game of Thrones fan, but he only liked the ending. True. So thank you, Ben, for this wonderful tweet. Alio, evening. A little bit of copium from Matt Walsh. The pollsters may not be asking about it, but there's no doubt that the Democratic Party, was partly doomed by its decision to go in all in on gender ideology. We successfully made this a losing political issue for them. That's... Oof. Alio with the 21 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Election Wizard, which is a very big account for election denial and all kinds of conspiracies. All you need to know is that they have a MyPillow code. That's all you need to know. All this Trump DeSantis talk is juicy versus DeSantis is juicy, but under the hood there's a far more pressing issue. Democrats fortified their COVID mass mail-in voting apparatus. How and what difference does it make? Nobody's going to ask these questions, of course. It is a vote harvesting juggernaut. What does that mean? If you mail in your ballots, what difference does it make? That will continue to produce competitive results no matter the GOP nominee. Of course, here is the opening shots of election denialism. All in on the copium here. Trump endorsed bad candidates. Yeah, of course. Trump endorsed the people that he thought would be useful to him. And so that's what happened. SCOTUS with Roe v. Wade and the Miranda rights made many voters angry. The Miranda rights, I don't know what that means, but yeah, Roe v. Wade had an impact, and so did the economy. Goomer Police, how's it going? And of course, the juiciest of copium. With the Georgia rerun, it may stop Trump's announcement on the 13th. No, I don't think so. I don't even know if he's actually going to announce at all. We'll see. What if dust could be used as a form of energy? I have no idea. I don't know if that's possible, or maybe it is. I don't know. But the juiciest of copium. Now that the election in Florida is over, and everything went quite well, shouldn't it be said that in 2020, I got 1.1 million more votes in Florida than Ron got this year, 5.7 to 4.6 million. I'm just asking. That's a good meme. That's a good meme. Ron DeSantimonious. Supreme Court police says police can't be sued for not reading out Miranda. Oh, yeah. No, okay, I remember now. Dr. Jagenrider, we went over this. We covered this. Yeah, we covered this. Yeah, now I remember what you're talking about. Okay. Now, I don't know if that's what made people angry, I'm gonna be honest. It's mostly, like, the Roe v. Wade thing, and exit polls, show mostly it was, like, abortion and the economy. Those were the two, like, big things. I can't wait for the Republican presidential primary. Well, it depends. It really depends. If Trump announces, then that's pretty much it. My computer desk broke. New one tomorrow. Well, that's good. It's good to hear you're getting a new one. Yeah, it's Roe and scary fascies. I'm in a red Western New York district, and there was a lot of young people there. Democracy was a major issue on the exits. Was it, though? I don't know. Best thing to do is just let those two bicker it out and split the bases. Yep. Oh, yeah, no, I'm encouraging this. This is delicious. I don't think democracy was on the... Oh, it was a major thing on the exit polls, my friend. Well, it might have made a list, but I don't know if it was like the biggest things that people were voting for. Although, in my opinion, it should have been, right? In my opinion, it should have been brought way more up front. Just how dangerous the GOP is. But that's just me. Do you have a True Social account? No. It says I have to sign up right here. I'm not even signed up. If DeSantis gets bigger, it's scary. No, I don't think he's gonna get bigger. Not if Trump has anything to say about it. McCarthy's getting pushed out for speaker. Well, we'd have to see where the dust settles. But that would be a terrifying thought. Having Kevin McCarthy as a speaker. That's a scary thought right there. Education. You can really see the split here. Jesus. Yeah, so look, as you can see, like the big policies that are on the list, yeah, it just doesn't. DeSantis is so boring that Trump has at least made me laugh. I mean, I don't know. I don't find him funny. I mean, I did and was proud. I voted twice because my scribbling was bad, and I wrote myself in for all the uncontested GOP elections. They disposed of it, and I got a new ballot, but a bunch of people saw me getting another ballot, and the scanner didn't work. Oh no. That's funny. I think the Santorum is way better. So, yeah, most of this has to do with the economy. Questions of democratic health are a little below the 5 issues. Yeah. Is Medicare or SS on there? I don't think so. But we'll get to that in a second. Interesting to see the climate change breakdown. The threatened side was at 68%, but it's very interesting to note that the partisan split between them is very even, which brings us back to the thing we talked about before, that both sides genuinely believe they're acting in the interests of the nation. Yeah, but you can think that you're acting in the interests of the nation, but your mentality as to how you do that will tell me whether or not, like, you know, this is a democratic line of thinking, right? This is really messed up. Lowly workers where I live bank on Social Security, otherwise their $10 an hour job will never pay out to live. Yep. Not surprising. Like 90-year-olds doing grocery jobs. Well, that's capitalism. I think it serves I think it serves as an example of just how deep the division go and how little they really see the other side as a legitimate opponent. Yep. I think that, yeah, but like the difference is the reasonings and logic behind it, right? Like when Republicans say like democracy is under attack or whatever, when you ask them why, or they think that the election is stolen or whatnot, they point to wild conspiracy theories. That's the difference, right? They point to like stop the steal shit. That's the difference. They've made these opinions and these perceptions based on, well, lies and conspiracy theories. That's the difference. Just think about all the stolen wages from people who died before they were able to collect their Social Security. True. Steal the stop. True. Hopefully, Dems and Biden will not allow the SSDI or SS or Medicare to be significantly changed. Well, that's dependent on how it turns out, right? On how the House races turn out. Do you think that Joe Biden win legitimately? 74% say yes. That's very scary. Very scary stuff. The House is orange and Dems get Senate. Wait, what do you mean orange? Like not cold yet? Very interesting. If you guys want to... Hey, Mayhem Hippie, how's it going? If you guys want to check this out, I'll repost the link here. I mean, that is a factor, Dr. Dragon Rider. Don't get me wrong, that is a factor. Still waiting on House seats to determine control by midday Wednesday. Either side could not decisively claim control of Congress. House seats in New York and California didn't yet have a winner, nor did Senate seats in Georgia and Arizona and Nevada. Motivating a bunch of hippies nationwide to select a place for Thanksgiving Council so we can agree on second council site for the spring. Hey! There you go. Now that's democracy at work, folks. I'm hanging in there. It's obviously quite difficult thought experiment because you're essentially asking someone to consider what is to them, quote, unreal. No, well, it's got to be based on reality, right? But the feelings of other side being a threat are real from both sides, regardless of the authenticity of the claim. Yeah, but I'm disputing that. Like, that's my point. That the feelings that these people are having are not authentic. Even though they feel that way. They are felt and therefore produce a reaction against the classic question of how do you bridge these two sides? I don't know. They're just going to have to accept whenever they want to come back down to planet Earth and accept reality. That would be a start. Fox is blaming Trump for the poor performance. Oh man, I wish I would have seen this. This is classic. This is some good copium right here. Hey Maple Leaf Dragon. I see I see the rampaging mobs of MAGA supporters from the cast of The Purge haven't shown up yet. No, not yet. Not yet. Not quite. This is gold. Trump blasted across media spectrum over Republicans' midterm performance. The biggest loser tonight. That's funny. Whatever you got to do to spin the story, my friends. Whatever you got to do. Cope. Whatever you got to do to deal with that copium, yeah? I heard there was a run-on issues for the GOP tiers last night. True. Run-on tissues. Sorry, yes. 4 years ago, my stepmom's family didn't show up to Thanksgiving. Apparently, they said it was because we were Dems and I didn't even know he was right-wing. We must... Oh, good. They eventually just started going to events again. Let's talk about some referendums. Here's how 5 states voted on the legalization of recreational marijuana. Voters in 2 states approved the legalization of recreational marijuana in Tuesday's elections, joining the growing list of states where the cannabis market is regulated for adult use. Congratulations. At least some states have dissents. Maryland and Missouri joined 19 other states and the District of Columbia in legalizing recreational marijuana, while legalization proposals did not pass in Arkansas, of course. North Dakota and South Dakota, of course. Hey, Dimesh, how's it going? Take off the beanie. No, thank you. It is a, Oh, this is a good emote. It is a law of the stream. Yeah, right-wing people are just stuck in the middle school edgy brain. Yep. That's very true. Maryland. Following the passage of Maryland's budget magic of $99. That is budget magic, okay? Have you played Magic the Gathering? If you can spend $99 on a deck, you're doing something right. On a good deck that's somewhat usable. That's somewhat usable on Friday Night Magic. Following the passage of Maryland's Question 4, adults in the state will be allowed to possess up to 1.5 ounces or two marijuana plants, beginning July of 2023. 2. This amendment also allows for the expungement. More importantly, I think this is a good part of it. The expungement of records for people arrested for marijuana possession and for people serving time for simple possession to have their sentences reconsidered. Nice. It would also establish a cannabis business assistance fund for small businesses, as well as minority and women-owned business entering the cannabis industry. Nice. Now the state lawmakers will decide on licensing and taxation. Well, I love Magic the Gathering and really awesome cards, but I'd never sell it. I've got some good cards too. Vermonters approved constitutional amendment to protect abortion in landslide vote. Not just a vote, in a landslide. Nice. Cool. I wonder if they'll make a mention of this here. Well, we'll take a look at it in just a sec. 72 to 22 with 6 left blank. Not bad. Not bad at all. Missouri voters approved State Amendment 3, which removes existing prohibitions on marijuana and allows adults to purchase and possess up to 3 ounces and grow up to 6 flowering plants at home. Nice. That's pretty cool, Dr. Dragon Rider. I love the Michigan ballot initiatives, all of them passed. Nice. A 6% sales tax will go to facilitating automatic expungements for certain non-violent marijuana offenses, veterans healthcare, substance misuse treatment, and the state public defender system. Nice. It also adds 144 new small business licensees to the existing business license for medical marijuana. According to Legal Missouri 2022, the advocacy that sponsored this measure, new license holders will be selected by lottery. Nice. Amends the Michigan Constitution to require lawmakers and top state officials, executive officials, to file personal financial disclosure reports. Changes legislative term limits to an overall of 12 years instead of 2 4-term years in the Senate and 3 2 years in the House. Gotcha. Nice. Nice. Good stuff. Amends the Michigan Constitution to create early voting and right to sign an affidavit as an alternative showing photo ID to vote, requires state-funded return postage and drop boxes for absentee ballots, clarifies the state canvassers board has a non-discretionary duty to certify results. Nice. What's the earliest MTG edition you have? I started right at the 4th edition, so I have 2 unlimited cards and a lot of 3rd. No, I think I started after that. I think I started way after that. I think I started playing when the whole like Mirrodin thing was just ending, and I think Ravnica was a thing. The guilds and whatnot. Amends the Michigan Constitution to add the right to choose to have an abortion and use contraceptives. Also, the state regulation of abortion after the point of fetal viability. Nice. Do you remember Alliances or Mirage? No. No, I do not. These are probably afterwards. Arkansas. Voters in Arkansas rejected issue 4, which would have allowed for the purchase of up to 4 ounces of marijuana from licensed retailers. The measure would have implemented a 10% sales tax, with the funds going towards law enforcement operations at the University of Arkansas. Wait, I thought they were like, conservatives, like back the blue or whatnot. They could have funded. Okay, whatever. Medical sciences and drug court programs authorized by the Arkansas Drug Court Act. That failed. North Dakota's Measure 2 would have allowed for the possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana. That failed. It would have also granted permits to 18 retailers and 7 cultivation facilities, impose a 5% excise tax, and allow individuals 3 cannabis plants for at-home growing. Yeah. South Dakota rejected Measure 27, which would have legalized possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana. Under this measure, the individuals would have been able to own up to 3 plants at home as long as they live in a jurisdiction where there's not a licensed marijuana retail store. The measure did not include the creation of a regulated market. There we go. I had to sell all my 1994 era Magic cards, including 2 dual lands. Jesus. Wow. BPCL, how's it going? Howdy. When I was like 10, Alpha Black Lotus was $300. Wow, and now it's 151,000. A good investment if you have one. Yeah. If you have one, yes. Or if you happen to have one during those times during alpha and you manage to somehow keep it in good condition and have one of those in your possession. Yeah. That's you struck gold. Buy a house with that dang thing. Unreal. I didn't know what they were worth until recently. I actually played with them. Sold for 300 each though. Wow. I think I have dual lands. But maybe limited. Oh, I don't have dual lands. I have fetches. I have fetch lands. Although I might have dual lands. I might have like one. That was like 3 years of income for me. Sheesh. Our home state are shit, but at least they fused to a bunch of states where people occasionally can find those on switch on their brain. They reprinted dual lands per 1% like 7 years ago. Yeah. I have a bunch of dual lands, but now I probably wouldn't sell them. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either if I had the choice. The play style that I have is very aggro. I used to play Affinity, which if you know what that is, then you know. I used to play Affinity, and I still do. I've just had to reorganize it because they banned Mox Opal, which is what this budget 99 Affinity deck is for. That's what that is. My playstyle is to have all my cards in a bunch of unopened packs at my mom's house 100 miles away where I actually live. Nice. You remind me of my friend. I've got like a whole like little thing of magic cards. I believe this is the strongest playstyle. I believe so too. I do need to make a commander deck one day. I need to sit down and make a artifact commander deck. I do have some at my parents' house, but most of my cards are with me. Folks, before we get into this story, if you have a second, consider going to the YouTube channel and hitting the big red subscribe button. It really has helped us out. If you have a moment, please, it really does help the channel out. If you like the content and you want to support the channel, just go on the YouTube and subscribe to it. Also thinking about leaving Missouri and going to Michigan. Nice. Let's talk about baseball cards. Yeah, no, I have no knowledge of baseball cards. You can't even... I wouldn't even know where to start with that one. Abortion right advocates count seismic victories in midterm election across the U.S. Nice. 5 months after the Supreme Court revoked the constitutional right to abortion, voters in 3 states were the first to enshrine the explicit right to abortion care in their state constitution. During a historic sweep of abortion right referendums across the U.S. in the midterm elections and that other referendum in Kansas, I want to say, voters in Michigan approved a hard-fought state constitutional amendment that affirms a fundamental right to reproductive freedom, effectively overturning the state's ban on abortion. Nice. Like, you could really see, like, the state of, like, overall politics when you look at a lot of these referendums and ballot initiatives and constitutional amendments, because like people aren't voting, or at least these type of votes aren't necessarily based on party line. Like when you vote for these constitutional amendments or something like that, it's just very simple. Like, do you approve it or do you not? It's as like democratic as it's gonna get when it comes to our systems. These amendments, ballot initiatives, referendums and whatnot, these are as democratic as you're gonna get. Oh, I just got a gifted tier 1 sub to Rhizo. Cool. Okay. It's very easy to not turn over the ballot by accident, true. But nonetheless, like, here's where you get to really get a good gauge of people's politics. And most of it is like, if you give people a choice, we'll choose more progressive initiatives than not. I almost forgot to turn on my Instapot. Oof. This is a seismic win for abortion rights in a battleground state. Center for Reproductive Rights President Nancy Northup said in a statement, this victory is also a win for people in neighboring states of Indiana and Ohio, where abortion is banned. Voters in Michigan joined Vermont, over here, and California to enshrine protections for abortion care in their state constitution, while voters in Kentucky and Montana appear to have shot down anti-abortion measures in their states. Boo. That's very true, Dr. Dragon Rider. The Supreme Court decision, Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, ordered that the issue of abortion protections should be left up to individual states, igniting legal challenges from abortion rights advocates, arguing that their respective states' constitutional language includes the right to an abortion. More than a dozen states have effectively outlawed abortion access altogether in the wake of that June decision, and Republican state lawmakers have advanced more restrictive anti-abortion law. Hold on, folks. And Republican state lawmakers have advanced more restrictive anti-abortion laws, upending abortion access for millions of Americans and forcing the closure of dozens of clinics across the U.S. But in August, voters in Kansas shocked the country, and a multi-million-dollar anti-abortion campaign with the results of America's first referendum on abortion right after the High Court's landmark ruling. That month, Kansas rejected a Republican-proposed state constitutional amendment that would gut protections for abortion care in Kansas, a red state, and went for Trump in 2020, and which anti-abortion activists anticipate will kickstart a nationwide campaign to end legal abortion. Instead, Kansas voters underscored the deep unpopularity of political interference with bodily autonomy. Damn. It's almost like people like this idea of the right to a bodily autonomy. Damn. Interesting. And reproductive health care, triggering a wave of midterm election campaigns that centered on the high stakes for abortion rights from races that could determine the balance of power in Congress to state-level races that targeted abortion rights. I'm sleepy, then go to bed, dude. What are you doing here? Also to be noted, a lot of there were several good races that Democrats won across like the state legislature. Colorado went pretty blue. I'm not sure this is topical for you, but there's a meltdown going in the crypto market at present. Oh well. Not really sympathetic. Not really sympathetic to basically essentially what amounts to pyramid scheme. Yeah. Hold on, that actually reminds me. What's with the right-wing ads? I don't know, these things? Oh, Jesus Christ. Progressive discriminating against white. Stop left-wing racism. And anti-white bigotry. Made for America first. That's all that's pretty much what you need to know. Completely like fine on the Independent, no less. Shame on them. Jesus. All right, James, you reminded me of this. Crypto markets are currently melting down. Yes, very sad. Anyways, good W's for the abortion right movement. Good W's for the right to bodily autonomy. Excellent. Voters in Vermont overwhelmingly approved the ballot measure that protects residents' right to make their own reproductive health decisions, including abortion, care, and birth control. The Vermont for Reproductive Liberty Ballot Committee, which campaigned for the amendment, said Vermont voters made history tonight. And in California, which we'll talk about, California voters approved an amendment to the state constitution that asserts that the state shall not deny or interfere with an individual's reproductive freedom and their most intimate decisions, which includes their fundamental right to choose to have an abortion and their fundamental right to choose or refuse contraceptives. Nice. The largest state in the nation has made it resoundingly clear that abortion is a fundamental right, Ms. Northam said in a statement, as we are seeing in state after state tonight, when people are given the chance to vote directly on the issue of abortion, they overwhelmingly want that right protected. This is not a partisan issue. This is good news for people shopping for computer parts. True. True. So, good news on that front. Vermont approves constitutional amendment to protect abortions in landslide vote. Tonight, voters in Vermont overwhelmingly passed the Reproductive Liberty Amendment, choosing to amend their state constitution to affirm the right of every Vermont citizen to reproductive freedom, including the right to an abortion. Vermont's votes follows a historic vote by Kansas earlier this year to protect abortion rights. Vermont voters made it clear that bodily autonomy is a fundamental right for people in their state. True. And it should be like a federal thing, right? Now that the Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade, state constitutions are vital to safeguarding access to abortion. Vermont has set an example of what is possible for other states. Nice. Very, very good. Very good stuff. So far, this has changed. Currently, the deficit is 8 seats. And hopefully it doesn't move. It doesn't move much more than that. I think that the most that they can afford was 12, right? Michigan governor, survivor of assassination attempt, got reelected. Yes. Yes.
Those on Medicare.
Jesus. It really is going to come down to those last handful of races. Whew. That's going to be a close one. That is going to be a nail biter. Well, good to see that I was more accurate than a lot of these polls and pundits. So that's cool. last handful of races, or the last handful of racists. No, last handful of races, the first one. Meta, Facebook, lays off 11,000 workers. Zuckerberg said his investments didn't pay off. Damn. So much for billionaire job creators, right? That's why we need them, right? SCOTUS effed GOP with their row ruling before the midterms. Leftist best. How's it going? Yeah, basically that was a huge fact. Well, that was one of the big factors, yes. Low IQ takes up in here. True. That's why you decided to come here, right? Is that something that you want to project on us? Is that what it is? Is that something you want to project on us? Mind you, this guy is a billionaire, multi-billionaire, and had to lay off 11,000 people. I was thinking they leaked it, and yes, it was them who did it to stop it from being now. You have leftist and progressive in tags. Yeah, is that what you like? Is that why you're here? Comrade Rafa is God. Continuing to provide for the leftist and progressive causes by continuing to type in chat and being one of our viewers. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Truly a help to this channel. The more you type, and your viewership also does really help this channel. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Truly a comrade. Rafa is God. Thank you. Meta is laying off 11,000 employees, about 13% of its workforce. Jesus. Wrote in a message to staff today. Zuckerberg said his previous decision to increase spending didn't pay off as he thought. And it would, as he thought it would, and Meta's revenue outlook is lower than expected at the beginning of this year. Yep. So, oopsies. Now 11,000 people just lost their jobs. Oops. Meta had 87,314 employees as of September 30th of 2022, an increase of 28% over the previous 12 months. At the start of COVID, the world rapidly moved online, and surge of e-commerce led to outsized revenue growth. Many people predicted this would be a permanent acceleration. What? That would continue even after the pandemic ended. I did too, so I made decisions to significantly increase our investments. Unfortunately, this did not play out the way I expected. They were probably all content auditors. What? Maybe. Facebook is incredibly vicious. If you blink the wrong way, Facebook will ban you for 30 days or restrict your account for 30 days. The company formerly known as Facebook already cut costs across business, including scaling back budgets, reducing perks, and shrinking real estate footprint. Meta's also restructuring teams to increase our efficiency, cutting discretionary spending, and extending our hiring freeze to Q1. But these measures alone won't bring our expenses in line with revenue growth. Bro, you're like a multi-billion-dollar company. What the hell are you doing? Anyways, this is just to prove the point. To meme on the fact that like billionaires are job creators or whatever. Can't ban me if I don't log in. True. Very true. I mean, we did talk about it months ago. There was a vast misunderstanding of the public sentiment on abortion, which resulted in it being a wolf in sheep's clothing for the Republican. Surveys taken under time periods where Roe v. Wade stood weren't giving true representations of alignment. and were undercounted when the chips were down and something was actually on the line, though sometimes respondents very quickly pick an absolute side, usually pro. Yep. Yep. And that was a big part as to why the Republicans didn't do as well. Could the lack of moderation for Meta and Twitter lead to a town hall situation where we declare the town square? No. No way. It would be nice. Anyways, the point of this article is to illustrate that billionaires aren't job creators. Republicans running dogshit candidates didn't help. Well, Republican candidates are dogshit. Period. Like, there's a lot of dogshit candidates, and a lot of them were election deniers, a good chunk of them. So that definitely helped. And the fact that a lot of them were in, like, a lot of the losers in the races, a lot of the losers were Trump candidates, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal stuff. Herschel Walker had little brain damage, so if he wins, I will be embarrassed for the country. Or embarrassed for Republicans. They're the ones that are making these choices. I get the honor of voting twice against him. I get the joy of looking... I get the joy of looking at that ballot and voting against Herschel Walker twice. What is your thought on the Walker runoff? Will more people or fewer people show up? I think Warnock is going to win. I think that because it went to a runoff like this, Warnock has more of a chance to win. Midterm voters are as partisan as you'll get. Yeah, I see. Didn't Warnock already win a runoff? I don't know if the other one... Yeah, was it another runoff? Yeah. This one is on the Republicans as a party. True! The older people won't just vote R. They just won't be there. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Warnock is going to win the runoff. If there's a rematch, Warnock is going to win. The missing votes went to the Libertarian candidate, so it's hard to tell how that will split. I don't know. Most of those people stay home. Most of those people like voting for the Libertarian candidate are like meme voters, so I think when it comes down to the actual runoff election, I think Warnock is going to win that one. I think he's going to win that one. I haven't been wrong so far. So. Were you surprised Abrams lost? No, not really. Anyways, billionaires don't create jobs. Example number 250,455. I just think hope people will not remember to vote. I'm not saying that to be mean. Well, hopefully that's the case. And hopefully most of that means that Republicans just won't be out there. That's all the better. I love my family, but rainbow politics sucks so much ass. What does rainbow politics mean? Like, rainbow politics is for coalition building, yeah? Rainbow family gathers throughout the year. Ah. We meet in councils at side locations, scouting, water, and all that jazz. Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Billionaires emit a million times more greenhouse gases than the average person. Yeah. The investment of 125 billionaires produces 393 million metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions each year, according to a report by Oxfam. That's the equivalent of CO2 output of the whole of France and makes average billionaires' annual emissions a million times higher than a person in the poorest 90% of the world's population, the global poverty chart says. Wow. The billionaires included in the study have a collective $2.4 trillion stake. That's a trillion with a T. Amounts that we can't even fathom. In a stake in 183 companies with averages out at a 3 million metric ton of carbon dioxide emitted per billionaire per year. People outside the world's wealthiest 10% emit an average of 2.76 metric tons of carbon dioxide annually. Their board by Oxfam analyzed how 125 of the world's richest people had invested their money and looked at the carbon emissions of those investments. The study found that 14% of billionaires' investments were polluting industries such as non-renewables and materials such as cement, and while the average investor has half that amount invested in those sectors. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce this name. Chief executive of Oxfam GB called for world leaders at COP27 climate summit to expose and change the role that big corporates and the rich investments are playing in profiting from the pollution that is driving the climate crisis. Yeah, but they don't care. Looking forward to the domination of solar and wind batteries, the decimation of fossil fuels. One could only hope. I hope that is the case as well. The role of the super rich in supercharging climate change is rarely discussed. This has to change. These billionaire investors are at the top of the corporate pyramid and have huge responsibility for driving the climate breakdown. They have escaped accountability for too long. The COP27 summit, which formally opened on Sunday, sees delegates from nearly 200 countries gathered in Egypt's Red Sea resort town of Sharm el-Sheikh for talks of how to address the climate crisis. Among the divisive issues to be discussed is a question of climate justice and getting wealthy countries to deliver on reparations. Yeah, good luck. Good luck on that. But yeah, this is the result of ultra wealthy capitalists who are essentially heavily invested and continue to be the lifeline for these polluting industries. That's also a factor that we cannot ignore in this equation. Someone asked me about Social Security earlier, I think. Republicans want to push Social Security and Medicare eligibility to 70. America's rapidly aging society is placing financial strain on its two core old age programs, Social Security and Medicare. Now, as Republicans are close to winning back the control of the House in the midterm elections, some lawmakers are embracing plans for overhauling overhauling the programs, including raising the age for seniors to claim benefits to 70 years old. Under a plan developed by a Republican study committee, a group of conservatives in the House, senior citizens would face a 5-year delay to claim Medicare, the government healthcare program for seniors that currently allows people to access the program when they turn 65. And the retirement age for Social Security would also be increased to 70, compared with today's full retirement age between 66 and 67 years old. The reason for the push, the miracle of long life expectancy. Yeah, but it's not even about that. It's like, bro, for real? How ghoulish are you that you want people to work until they're freaking 70 to be able to collect on Social Security? According to the Republican Study Committee documents, but while Americans are living longer than in earlier generations, the average age of retirement is 61, 5 years earlier than workers say they expected to step back from the workforce. According to the Gallup. In other words, people believe they'll work longer, but on average, Americans are stepping back 5 to 6 years before they can even reach Social Security current full retirement age. And it's done on purpose to shaft people from things that they would pay for during this entire time that they're working. Because of this, boosting an age to claim benefits would likely increase hardship and poverty for older Americans. Cruelty is the point with Republicans, folks. Remember that. Especially for low-income rural Americans and those who also coincidentally vote Republican, and those who have stopped working due to health issues or take care of family members. That means either missing 3 years of benefits compared with current retirees, or opting to claim benefits earlier, which Social Security allows retirees to do in exchange for permanent reduction in benefits. Generally, retiring 3 years earlier than the full retirement age equates to 20% decline in monthly benefits. Jesus. That means that even even those people who work to age 70, you'd never catch up with the cut in benefits, said Nancy Altman, a president of Social Security Works, an advocacy group for the benefit program. She added, it particularly hurts those in low-income, physically demanding jobs who are more likely to stop working earlier due to health issues. Postponing eligibility for Medicare would leave most older Americans aged 65 to 70 significantly underinsured and threatens their finances and their health. Again, cruelty is the point. The Republicans do not give a flying fuck. They think that they can do this because most of the boomers are 70 plus now, the most selfish generation ever. True! That is a very good point. So, like, the boomers all got their shit, and now they're gonna, like, kick the fucking ladder from underneath the rest of us. Again, just flipping the big middle finger on their way out. What a bunch of fucking assholes. Truly. Truly. That is a very good point, Maple Leaf Dragon. Current age where you must start taking it is 70.5. Rich people wait because you get a bit more, so this would make it the only age. Yep. Americans between 65 and 70 would either need to work longer or in order to keep their health coverage through their employer, or turn to healthcare.gov's marketplace to buy insurance. Even for plans that people who are under 64 can be costly, running more than $10,000 per year in premiums. Jesus Christ. The cost for 65 to 70 would be even more financially challenging, especially given the fact that the need to use more care and spend more out of pocket. Where will he find the money to pay for these new unexpected healthcare costs? Republicans say that changes are needed to Social Security and Medicare because they projected funding shortfalls, with Social Security's trust fund projected to be depleted by 2035. At that point, beneficiaries would still receive monthly checks, but the benefits would be cut to about 75 to 80% of their full amount. Medicare is also facing funding shortfalls as the ranks of America's seniors as well. According to the Republican view, the best way to reset the program would be to cut spending by reducing the number of years that senior can claim these programs. They also want to link retirement age to future changes in life expectancy, which could mean that the claiming for Social Security could creep even higher than 70. But, like, the point is, like, you can also lift caps on where Social Security gets their money. Like there's if you're like a very wealthy person, you're capped at 125,000. Why is that? Why is that? Insurances for an old person is absurdly expensive as someone who's sold life and health insurance right out of college. Yep, most people don't even work to their full retirement age, much less 70. This would add insecurity and it would add to the retirement income crisis. If Republicans gain control of Congress, it is likely that these proposals and others, such as turning Social Security into a discretionary spending program, could move forward. As of Wednesday, it was unclear which party will maintain control of the Senate, although Republicans are projected to win the House. President Biden is pushing against the proposals, but Democrats are facing headwinds as voters weigh the highest inflation of 40 years and other economic issues. From the time you're 16, you have money taken out to pay for Social Security. But guess what? There's somebody out there busting their neck, or you lost your job or husband and you're 68, and they want to take away your Medicare and Social Security. Americans living in Republican-leaning states are likely to be hurt more by the retirement age increase than those in so-called blue states. The same people. It's like the sheep voting for the wolf. Because Big Pharma keeps price gouging. That's also a good point. Yeah, price controls on human necessities. Yeah, things that shouldn't have, things that shouldn't have anything to do with like how much money you make. Yeah. I remember Sam Zeder saying something about how Clinton was about to privatize Social Security, but then the whole worst blowjob ever thing happened. Yeah. Man, that would have been so bad if they privatized Social Security. Jesus. That would be terrible. Right before the crash, too. Yep. That's because depending on the one state of residence, there's a considerable gap in life expectancy for people who are 65 years old. Residents of states where voters tend to predominantly elect Republicans tend to have fewer life expectancies. At age 65, than people who live in states where residents votes for Democrats. Interesting. For instance, Mississippi, Alabama, and Oklahoma have the lowest life expectancy in the nation for people who are 65 years old, with those residents projected to live roughly an additional 16 years. But 65-year-olds in Hawaii live an additional 21 years on average, and while those in California and Vermont live an additional 19 years. Raising the retirement age would really hurt rural areas, which tend to trend older and be of lower income, and they tend to be Republicans. Well, I mean, they voted for this shit. Medicare's eligibility to age 70 would also hurt many of these voters, especially as low-income workers may not be able to maintain in the workforce in their 60s due to disabilities or other issues and could struggle to pay for health insurance until they turn 70. In the long run, delaying Medicare accessibility could also raise programs' healthcare costs because more people would be entering the program not only at an older age, but potentially sicker after delaying healthcare treatments for several years. Right. There are other options for restoring Social Security and Medicare to financial health other than raising the retirement age and cutting benefits. Of course there are. Tax the fucking rich. Among them is raising a cap on earnings that are taxed for Social Security. Currently, earnings not 125,000, 147 aren't subject to the payroll tax, although that limit will rise to 160,000 in 2023. Another idea is to increase the tax rate for the program. Yep. Both methods would bolster revenue for the program, although the first idea would only impact about 6% of workers who earn more than 147,000 annually, while the second would impact all workers. Congressional Research Service says said in a June report in 2023, the cap on earnings will rise to 160,200 with the amount adjusted upward due to inflation. From a political perspective, public opinion regarding different options can vary among constituencies. But the report added policymakers need to act soon to avoid cuts to benefits to roughly 70 million people who receive Social Security benefits, a group that includes retirees, disabled workers, and survivors of Social Security recipients. Yet raising the retirement age and putting Medicare out of reach until people turn 70 may only exacerbate income inequality and worsen poverty among American seniors. It's an incredibly serious threat right now. And of course, this is the Republican plan. There's also a fun stat where older people actually have a longer life expectancy than young people at a certain point if you start counting at their birth. Hold on, folks. So there you have it. Republicans, should they win significant control of power, this is what they will do. Make no mistake. This is what they will do. All right, let's see if we have any other updates. All right, we've got one more article. Bill, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Climate change threatens to destroy the things Americans value the most. Yeah. The U.S. must ramp up efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions over the next 3 decades as climate change would worsen disasters and threaten water supplies and public health across the country. Not sure they really care about that, though. The things Americans most value most are at risk. The National Climate Assessment authors wrote in a 1,695-page draft. Many of the harmful impacts that people across the country are already experiencing will worsen as warming increases and new risks will emerge. Over the past 50 years, the U.S. has warmed about 68% faster than the planet as a whole, with temperatures rising by 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels. The land has warmed faster than the ocean, higher latitudes have warmed faster than lower latitudes, and the Arctic has warmed fastest of all. Climate-related disasters are causing economic losses through infrastructure damage, disruption in critical services, and losses in property value. The country has experienced an average of nearly 1 billion disasters, so 8 billion, each year over the past 4 decades, but in the past 5 years, it has seen that average jump to nearly 18 events annually, $18 billion. The report also described how millions of Americans could be displaced by climate disasters, such as severe wildfires in the U.S. West and sea level rise in coastal cities. Climate change is also damaging regional economies by slashing crop yields in the Midwest, disrupting fisheries operations in Alaska, among other negative effects. The authors highlighted how a slew of catastrophes fueled by climate change have disproportionately burdened U.S. communities that have lower carbon footprints than average. The effects of climate change are felt almost strongly by communities that are already overburdened, including indigenous people, people of color, and low-income communities. These frontline communities experience harmful climate impacts first and worse, and yet are often the least responsible for the greenhouse gas emissions that cause climate change. The report also called for action. The country has curbed emissions by 12% between the 2007 and 2019, according to the report, noting advances in renewable energy technology like wind and solar, and reduction in coal use. But in order to meet the Biden administration's target to achieve net zero economy by 2050, emissions must decline by more than 6% each year going forward. The threats to the people and the places we love, our livelihoods and pastimes can be reduced now through proactive, proven efforts to substantially cut emissions and adapt to unavoidable change in ways that address inequities across the nation. Authors noted several actions with the near-term benefits, such as accelerating low-carbon technologies, ramping up public transit, incentivizing renewable energy and electric vehicle purchases, as well as improving cropland management. They warned that many of the adaptation efforts put forth by states and cities are inadequately funded, calling their potential impact incremental rather than transformative. Yeah. So the message is clear. Incremental change is just not sufficient. Incremental change expecting that you're going to reach your goals within the time that's left is it's just not going to happen. The worst consequences of climate change can still be avoided or limited by large-scale actions that rapidly decarbonize the economy and prepare communities for impact. Long-term planning and investment in transformative mitigation and adaptation offers opportunities to create a healthier and more just and resilient nation. The congressionally mandated report comes as leaders across the world meet this week at the UN Climate Change Conference in Egypt to address methods and set targets to tackle climate change. Right, but like, we know what we need to do, right? We know that in as many ways as possible, as quickly as possible, we must reduce emissions. We must reorganize our priorities. We must understand that the economy and all this other stuff is going to mean nothing if we have no ability, no working ecosystems to where we draw resources, to where we draw water, food. I mean, none of that is going to matter if we have broken ecosystems to the point where all of this is effed. The full report is set for release in 2023 following a period of public comment and peer review. The government is required to release the National Climate Assessment every 4 years. True, the short-term quarterly profits. As we see the snapshot of like homes being underwater. Have you considered these companies as profits though? As like the west coast is on fire. As Lake Mead is like drying up bone dry. Have you considered the short-term quarterly profits? As tens of millions of people's water supply has been dwindling, as like a good part of the West and Midwest experienced one of the worst droughts. Yeah. The picture deserves the caption got gills. True. Think about the shareholders. Why don't you? I know, Holy City. I'm being very uncharitable. I should really think about the fossil fuel industry and the big agriculture industry. I really should be thinking about their billions of dollars. I am very selfish for not taking them into consideration. I apologize, Holy City. I truly apologize. How's it going, Holy City? Welcome. Echo Wrestler Dragon, how's it going?
Today's So for today's episode, we have a lot to cover since it's been a sec since I did a climate recap episode. I am not going to cover new stuff having to do with COP27 because I'm going to do a separate video for COP27. So stay tuned for that. But there's still definitely plenty to cover, especially since COP27 continues to bring all these different studies coming out of the woodwork. So we're going to talk about a lot of studies that are trying to tell influential people at COP27 things. And we'll actually listen to the studies. I don't know whether or not our politicians or corporate execs will, but at least we'll know what they should be doing.
They won't. They won't. We just went over the study that they're supposed to do every 4 years. Unfortunately, chances are they won't. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate work. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Welcome to the Climate Recap from the Beckosphere Climate Corner, your go-to place for international and US-based climate news. I'm Becky Hogue, a climate communicator. Click the subscribe button and ring the bell icon to stay updated on this important topic, and let's jump right into today's news. We have several more depressing studies, as I said, so let's start by talking about what's at risk. UNESCO reports that major glaciers around the world will for sure melt by 2050, regardless of how mitigation efforts go. UNESCO tracks some 18,600 glaciers across 50 World Heritage sites,
that's not good. That's not good. If a lot of these glaciers go, Cope 27 lobbyists per liter, true, sponsored by Coke, by the way. Not kidding. But you were there, Maple Leaf Dragon. If all these glaciers go, the number one problem would be obviously sea level rise, but it would also create positive feedback loops, which that's also a big problem. Yeah, we're talking about fundamentally changing the way the Earth's systems work. And that's not good because we don't know exactly the full ramifications of this other than it's gonna be bad. Or it could be bad, I should say.
The world's glaciers. So this is not the full picture, but based on the thousands it tracks, UNESCO says a third of these glaciers will melt by 2050. This includes some of the world's most famous glaciers, like at Yosemite National Park in California, Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming and Montana, Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and Dolomites in Italy. UNESCO says keeping warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius will save the other 2/3 of the glaciers. But if warming trends continue the way they are now, half of the heritage site glaciers could melt by 2070.
Not only that, this 1.5 degrees Celsius, that's already a meme. I don't think that we have done enough to meet that metric. I don't think that we've made the sufficient enough changes to make that metric. Nor do I think we have the time. Even if we did everything right today, I don't know if we'll meet that. I mean, at best, maybe we can do 2 degrees. I hope. But yeah, I don't know.
We are currently on track to warm the planet by 2.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Yeah. Glaciers provide drinking water for billions of people around the world, so their melting will cause increased water scarcity in addition to more flood risk and sea level rise.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a new Deloitte study found that a quarter of the world's workforce is highly vulnerable to climate extremes and haphazardly managed or passive low-carbon economic transitions. I'm talking about jobs being impacted by heat stress, changes in crop yields, stress on the tourism economy, loss of emissions-intensive jobs, and the list goes on. On the flip side of that coin, though, well-planned economic growth of the green-collar workforce, or an active transition, could result in a net increase in employment by 300 million by 2050 and benefit some of that same at-risk workers I just mentioned. The choice seems pretty obvious to me, which we should do. Now let's go over to more of the studies that talk about how we're not decarbonizing fast enough. First off, 20 researchers from Melbourne Climate Futures released a land gap report, which shows that countries would need to fill an area the size of all the world's croplands with trees to fit their net zero carbon goals. This is because countries are significantly over-relying on massive tree planting and other land-based carbon sink projects to suck up their surplus of carbon emissions. Countries rather say they will plant more trees than reduce their fossil fuel use or conserve old growth.
Right, which again, the problem with this is while planting trees, depending on what kind of trees do they belong there, that may be a good thing, but trees take time, and time is something that we don't have in comparison, which I'm sure she was just about to say, the old growth forests. Considering we're not carpet bombing the Arctic with cryogenic munitions, I agree. Yep.
forests. The study also highlights the reality that planting more trees doesn't equate to protecting the environment. In
Right.
fact, planting trees on top of valuable carbon sinks like grasslands and wetlands would do more harm than good. Relying on tree planting operations will have negative impacts on
Yes, depending on what you do. That is very correct. If you mess with like the biosphere or whatever you call it, if you mess with the ecosystem there by just planting more trees, and especially if the trees don't belong there, you are risking of doing more damage than good. It just really depends. If the trees belong there, then yeah, you should. Other than that, just try to focus resources on actual habitat restoration, like whatever that habitat is. If it's a marsh, if it's a grassland, if it's a forest, like you tailor it to that.
ecosystems, indigenous communities, food security, and human rights. Indigenous groups have been warning about this for years because these operations give countries an excuse to remove people from their native land in the name of climate mitigation. Tree planting operations usually are in the form of young tree monoculture, which won't suck up as much carbon as established forests and are more vulnerable to wildfires and disease. The ability to calculate how much carbon tree planting operations actually take up is tedious and limited too, especially when compared to the impact of reducing fossil fuels. It's a little
Yes,
more obvious
restoration.
nowadays. The report recommends countries make deep cuts
Gotta
in
turn
emissions
DC back
from
into a
industrial
marsh
agriculture,
or a swamp.
deforestation, and
Wait.
fossil fuels instead of relying
I
on
think it
unavailable
already
land
is a
for
swamp
carbon
though, right?
offsets. One of the report's authors said, quote, "We should really be seeing reductions and removals as two different things." Some more effective emissions reduction measures the report recommends include safeguarding indigenous rights to protect land and prioritizing conservation. What do you think of this distinction between carbon reduction and carbon removal? Let me know in the comment section below. Speaking of conservation though, a new study published in the journal Science Advances found that sustaining protected areas provides a noticeable cooling effect on a region and climate change refugia for biodiversity. The cooling impact of maintaining natural or semi-natural spaces is the most beneficial in reducing daily maximum temperatures in the tropics and reducing the daily and seasonal temperature ranges in higher latitudes. Specifically, protecting forests is very beneficial for reducing warming closer to the poles. Areas with protected forests see 20% less warming than their unprotected surroundings, according to the study. That's pretty significant. But back now to the not so great studies. 2021 saw a 16% surge in fossil fuel subsidies among countries, according to a new Bloomberg NEF analysis. That's before Russia invaded Ukraine, y'all. The analysts cautioned this percentage is a conservative estimate too. Continuing these fossil fuel subsidies is reckless for many reasons. Subsidies distort prices, encourage potentially wasteful use and production, and pour capital into emissions-intensive infrastructure. And
I was
while
trying to
it
think of a
can be
slogan
argued that
opposite of drain the
consumer-based
swamp, but I
subsidies
can't think of a
help
decent
vulnerable
one. A
people
decent
gain
one.
access to cheaper energy, the study found that the majority of subsidies disproportionately help wealthier consumers. Imagine if this money was used to spur clean energy development or increase energy efficiency. We would be in a totally different place than we are now. And okay, corporations, now we're looking at you. 3 new
Refill
studies
the
recently
swamp.
dropped all at the same time, saying basically the same thing. Corporations are not going to meet their net zero targets at this rate if they even have one in the first place.
Wow,
The information
surprise
tech company
Pikachu
Accenture
face.
found that
No
only
way.
1/3 of the world's largest 2,000 companies have a climate target, which is actually 7% higher than last year. 93% of companies with targets are expected to miss their targets unless they accelerate their efforts now. They would need to at least double the pace of their emissions cuts by 2030 to
Surprise
get on track. Some of
Pikachu
the largest
face.
hurdles companies face to reach their goals are inflation, supply chain bottlenecks, and worker shortages. Meanwhile, the American manufacturing consulting company Bain & Co. released a report finding that a third of companies that submitted decarbonization goals to the Climate Disclosure Project missed their 2021 emissions goals. And a recent MCSI analysis stated only a third of listed companies have aligned themselves with keeping warming well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. At this rate, all of the listed companies combined would bring warming to about 2.9 degrees Celsius. The one
Jesus.
silver lining in these studies brings me back to the Accenture analysis. It shows that we can't fully discount companies' climate pledges as greenwashing because even though companies are mostly missing their goals that they've set, companies with climate pledges are more likely to do the decarbonization work than those that have no pledge at all. So even though they both suck, the ones without pledges suck worse. 83% of the companies they looked at with climate pledges announced plans to up their goals this year. However, most are still not prioritizing reducing Scope 3 emissions, which are indirect emissions made from the supply chain or through
Florida
product
tried to
use.
refill
They
the
usually
swamp with
represent the
ocean
highest
water.
percentage of
Jesus,
companies'
whose
emissions,
idea
and they
was
require more
that?
data collection and analysis work to track.
That doesn't make
which is why
sense.
Most companies really haven't done that. What do you think of these findings? Are corporations doing better, worse, or about the same as what you expected?
They-
And do you
they
think
don't care,
corporations or
so
countries are doing a
probably
better job
the
at
same or
decarbonizing?
worse.
Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. That brings us to the climate victories. 12 food giants, including Unilever, PepsiCo, McDonald's, and Mars, have committed to work together to support regenerative agriculture in an effort to get to net zero emissions by 2050. The food system accounts for a third of global greenhouse gas emissions, and it's mainly run by corporations like these. Prince Charles invited big ag execs to sign the Agribusiness Task Force ahead of COP27, which is taking place in Egypt starting today. It's part of the former Prince of Wales
Everglades are an
Sustainability
estuary.
Markets
Yes.
Initiative, which he launched back in the World Economic Forum in 2020. SMI works to build a coordinated global effort to enable the private sector to accelerate the transition into a sustainable future. SMI released a study finding that only 15% of the world's croplands use regenerative agricultural practices. That is the agricultural practice that promotes the conservation and rehabilitation of land after hundreds of years of industrial practices. It focuses on regenerating the topsoil, increasing biodiversity, coexisting and improving the water cycle, etc. SMI argues that regenerative agriculture needs to scale up by 40% by 2030 to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions coming from this sector. But switching agricultural practices means spending thousands of dollars on new equipment and learning new practices, which is a large risk for farmers. By joining the Agribusiness Task Force, these giant corporations are agreeing to work together to agree to common metrics for environmental outcomes, build farmers' income from environmental outcomes such as carbon reduction and removal, create mechanisms to share the cost of transition with farmers, ensure government policy enables and rewards farmers for transition, and develop new sourcing models to spread the cost of the transition. The companies SMI and the Prince invited weren't random too. They are specifically starting with a focus in U.S. wheat, UK potatoes, and Indian
I gotta bounce. No problem. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Identify learnings transferable to other crops and geographies. This actually isn't the first regenerative agricultural commitment PepsiCo has made. It committed to converting its 7 million acres of agricultural land to regenerative practices by 2030. Most of that land grows potatoes, corn, oats, and oranges. It's got about 5% of the way there so far, so that's a bit of a ways to go. And that's basically all we know for now about this new agreement. My main concern is just how vague the task force plan is, so it'll be interesting to see what regenerative agricultural metrics get proposed. What do you think of this whole thing? Do you trust Big Ag to actually pivot? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below.
No, I don't.
To use, UK wind farms generated a record amount of electricity on Wednesday. Strong winds helped this form of clean energy produce more than 20 gigawatts that day, breaking the previous record set a week prior. With a massive North Sea offshore wind farm completed earlier this year, this record will likely be broken again soon. The UK government wants to get 50 gigawatts of offshore wind up and running by 2030.
Not bad.
I want to highlight a cool new car driving into the European market next year. The German company Sono Motors created a unique SUV that has already received more than $22,200 refundable deposits from eager customers and more than 22,000 orders from fleet customers. The $34,000 or 29,900 pound Sion contains 456 polymer scratch-resistant dent-proof solar panels molded into its sleek black frame to turn the sun's rays into energy for its 54 kilowatt-hour lithium ion phosphate battery. Yeah, I know that article says $25,000, but I'm not really sure where they got that number from, since Sonos' website says that the price starts at 29,900 pounds, which translates to about $34,000. But still, that's cheaper than the average EV price right now. These solar panels can turn the car's 190-mile battery life into 240 to 340 mile range, depending on how much sun it gets. That means that the sun can account for about a third of the average driver's yearly average mileage, but it depends on how sunny the area is and even how sunny your parking spot is. But if the owner only needs to do small commutes and lives in a sunny place, they could potentially never need to charge their car again. And even without the solar panels, the battery can charge in a half an hour using a fast charger or in a few hours using a level 2 charger. And again, it's only 29,900 pounds. They got this price by outsourcing production to the Finnish manufacturing company Valmet Automotive, selling the car directly rather than through third parties and offering no other color options or additional features. Sions can be pre-ordered in the EU to be delivered in the second half of 2023.
That's very interesting.
At the American market possibility now too, so that's exciting. The future is now, folks. Other companies like California company Aptera and Dutch company Lightyear are working on developing solar-powered EVs too. Would you get a Sion? Let me know in the comment section below. And now for the climate fails. Remember, don't get despondent, get mad. I briefly talked about fossil fuel companies' continuous record profits, but let's simmer in them for a sec. Saudi Aramco, the most profitable oil company in the world, just saw its profits surge by 34% in the third quarter to $42 billion or 37 billion pounds. It was higher than analysts expected, though they did expect the oil giant to beat its previous record made in the second quarter. These profits were driven by a combination of increased sale volume and higher crude oil prices. BP also boasted a stronger than expected profit margin from this quarter, bringing in $8.2 billion or 7.2 billion pounds. This time last year, they were making a mere $3.3 billion. Talk about a war profit. Shell reported
Jesus.
$9.45 billion or 8.3 billion pounds in earnings, which was its second highest profit on record after the second quarter earnings of $11.5 billion or over 10 billion pounds. Total Energies reported $9.9 billion or 8.7 billion pounds in pure profit that same day. For both Shell and Total Energies, that's twice as much as they were making last year. What's crazy is how much power fossil fuel companies have to keep the energy prices high in Europe, even though the demand for gas has gone down with the rise for cheaper renewable energy. Two studies published by University College London this September determined that fossil fuels are the main driver of electricity prices across Europe.
Right. It's because of the policies that they have. That's why this is happening.
They dictate the price 66% of the time on average in the EU, UK, and Norway, despite fossil fuel companies only accounting for 37% of that group's average electricity generation. This fluctuates quite a bit, though. Germany sees 91% of its electricity prices dictated by fossil fuels, mainly coal, despite renewables accounting for almost half of its energy supply. France only sees fossil fuels dictate its electricity price about 7% of the time because it's a nuclear-run country. In the case of the UK, gas provides under half of the total electricity, yet it sets the cost 84% of the time. That's just wild. The study's lead said, quote, "If we actually paid the average price of what our electricity now costs to produce, our bills would be substantially cheaper." This is because fossil fuels are still needed to handle wind and solar energy fluctuations. Quote, "While renewables are providing more and more electricity, we still need natural gas to meet the demand. The most expensive natural gas producers are still needed to cope with fluctuations in renewable energy production, so they are setting what's called the marginal cost at the edge of what's needed. Because natural gas generation is expensive, those producers charge the highest prices, which means that other producers are able to charge similar prices. So they're all working together." Lovely. LCU is working with Aldergate Group and the Institute for New Economic Thinking to come up with proposals for economic reform, energy market decarbonization, and electricity price facilitation. These two studies are the first things to come out of this effort, and they will be part of two major reports that will come out later this month and in May 2023. The summary of the two studies will be available in my source list below if you are interested in learning more about this topic. I recommend also reading this little number. Very interesting. But what do you think of how much fossil fuels control electricity prices? Let me know in the comment section below.
Huge policy failure, if you ask me.
Liquefied natural gas, or LNG, imports increased by 65% in the first 9 months of this year compared to 2021 as countries work to fill their supplies and move away from Russian gas. The Financial Times reported that $2 billion worth of gas is sitting off of Europe's coast right now in 30-plus ships, waiting for prices to go up as the weather gets colder so they can rake in the dough. The reporter got this information from Vortexa shipping data. LNG, of course, is problematic because it's a fossil fuel itself, mainly made of methane, which is 84 times better at trapping in heat than CO2 for the first 20 years they're in the atmosphere, but it's also a very energy-intensive thing to make and store.
What a wonderful system we've got. True. It's working perfectly.
Must be cooled down to negative 160 degrees Celsius to become
Makes
liquid,
total
which
sense.
is preferred because it's easier to send in a denser supply that way. LNG imports are the main way European countries are coping with Russia shutting off its gas supply, but that means that emissions associated with transporting and storing the gas will go up. The authors say relying on LNG like this is short-term thinking, and this increased carbon intensity is just another incentive to prioritize deploying clean energy and energy efficiency measures. We're going to finish off this episode with a messy situation that semi-resolved itself in Peru over the past few days. Indigenous people in the Peruvian Amazon held 150 international and Peruvian tourists hostage to protest the government's inaction on cleaning up a large oil spill that happened back in September. 2,500 tons of crude oil flowed into the Cananico River from a pipeline owned by the state-owned oil company Petro Peru. The indigenous community said this was just the latest of 46 oil spills that have destroyed many parts of the Peruvian Amazon and resulted in the death of 2 children and a woman. International tourists that were captured came from America, the UK, Spain, France, and Switzerland. Some hostages were held there for up to 8 days, and among those tourists detained were elderly people, a pregnant woman, and a 1-month-old. No one was harmed, though. At least one hostage used social media to ask people to spread the indigenous community's message so she could be released sooner. The hostages were released on Saturday, I believe, but I'm not sure if the community will get the help that it was asking for through this hostage situation. What do you think of this situation? Let me know in the comment section below, especially
if you want some heat now, but if you wait until you're about to freeze to death, you'll pay more, right?
You are amazing, and consider joining my Discord server.
Cough it up.
I can't guarantee that I will use it too often. It will allow for a space where you can send me and other Beckexperience resources and chat about various climate topics. The link for that will be in the description box below. And that was your climate recap for the day. Remember to talk about the climate crisis every single day and to support your local news organizations. Thank you so much to the people on Patreon who help support me and my fur baby Rue. A special shout out to the climate confident and courageous David H, Norman Anal, Greg H, Paul B, Phil Plasma, Dan Morton, Dane Chris, Nate, Specker, Bree C, climate teacher John J, Deanne, and Steve. I greatly appreciate your support of $5 or more. If you would like to support the Backosphere, please check out the Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links in the description below for recurring or one-time payments. Bye for now.
True. Proud to live in one of the most biodiverse regions in the continent. Government, farmers, and business participate in some regenerative agriculture, but are looking to make it the standard. Nice. That's pretty cool. Folks, if you have a second, make sure you subscribe to that channel. And while you're at it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Folks, we got to get going. It is just past 7 o'clock. And I do have some things to do. I appreciate you guys hanging out. You guys are what makes this channel grow. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button on your way out. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so I was not more interactive. I was here and listening. That's all that matters, Mayhem Hippie. I appreciate you hanging in there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. It really does help us out. Spread the word far and wide that we're here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, on the weekends, mostly Sundays around noon Eastern Time. Stay tuned if you want to keep up with the channel. Join the Discord, exclamation mark Discord. If you want to keep up with the channel and get some updates, feel free to join that. Subscribe to the YouTubes and all that awesome stuff. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, folks. See ya. All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.